Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer. Usually Stephen Koukoulis is with us, our in-house economist, but he's on a well-deserved holiday for a few weeks, and we have our other in-house economist. I'm not sure whether I can say that or not, but I'm going to. Cherelle Murphy, who's the chief economist at EY as her day job, moonlighting Cherelle with Fear and Greed.
I'm privileged to be under the roof.
And one of our great supporters, Cherelle, I've got to say, you have supported us right from the beginning, so we thank you for that.
Oh, you're high-quality product team.
Thank you. Look, just briefly last week, because it's such a big couple of days coming up for the economy, but briefly last week, Michelle Bullock, the Reserve Bank Deputy Governor and potentially Governor in waiting, said that rates would be rising, pushing into 2023. The Reserve Bank minutes came out and said it was a finely balanced decision. We had labour force out. What's your take on last week?
Yeah, that's right. So getting that guidance from the Reserve Bank through Michelle Bullock last week was quite interesting. You think about we're at 2.6 now. There are another 2 meetings by the end of the year. Let's say they go 25 basis points each. We're now pushing the cash rate well into the threes. It does seem like the inflation problem, of course, is more entrenched than we had perhaps previously thought, and that's still definitely coming through in the global data as well. And we'll get our data next week, and we can talk about that later. But I think it's clear that they realise the challenge is bigger and more ugly than they had expected, and so hence the sort of confidence with which they've come out and said that.
What about the labour force figures? 3.5%? Not bad.
Yeah, great, 3.5%. Although, interestingly, it wasn't super strong in the sense that net employment only increased by about 1,000 people. And with statistics, of course, we don't really know if that's very accurate in terms of it's probably around 1,000 people rather than 1,000. But it sort of suggests that, we're almost at perhaps peak capacity in terms of the fact that we're perhaps not going to get the unemployment rate, too much below that. It was kind of read to some extent as almost like a justification for the RBA taking it back from 50 basis points to 25 basis points.
Okay, so the next few days are massive for the economy. Starting tomorrow night, we'll have the mini budget, I suppose it is. What will you be looking for in the federal mini budget?
Yes, so our second budget of the year. Fantastic. Second very late night of the year. The budget deficit improved really dramatically last financial year because we had higher than expected commodity prices. Our labour market was stronger. We didn't have to pay out as much in COVID to businesses than we thought. So I guess we're starting from a better point. It doesn't take away from the fact that the ongoing challenges, which are keeping the structural budget position in deficit, so the one that kind of excludes all the cyclical influences, that is still very challenging because of, as we know, increased expenditure on aged care, on NDIS, on defence, and that list that the Treasurer constantly reminds us about.
Yeah.
But, the fact that we're starting from a better position is not meaningless and certainly will help along the way. There's a few things that the government has to do tomorrow night. One is it has to update the economic forecast because clearly they have changed a lot since March when the last budget was out. They've got to put their election commitments in there, which at the time were worth about 6.9 billion. They've got to put the new paid parental leave scheme in. Now, that doesn't start in full for some time, but it will affect the estimates further out. They've got to put in all the expenditure that they've had to meet to help with the flood recovery, which is quite extensive, and even COVID-related expenditure, which they didn't know that they were going to have to depart with earlier in the year. Also, higher interest rates, new initiatives from the Jobs and Skills Summit, new migration targets, they all have to be incorporated. So there's quite a long list of things that they have to do before they even get to any surprises.
Do you think there'll be any surprises tomorrow night?
I don't think there will be any surprises, and I think that's what the Treasurer is setting us up for by using the terminology bread and butter budget. I think when they come to next May, when in the regular budget cycle for the next budget, that's when we'll start to see the agenda really being laid before us. This one, it seems though they're just trying to bring the numbers up to date with where they're at and put in place all the surprises and all the things that they've planned in terms of policy.
Yep.
But that's not a big list. And I guess the real agenda will be more obvious next year.
Okay. The other big piece of data out this week is third quarter, September quarter inflation figures, which of course we're all sort of hanging off at the moment, inflation.
That's right. And the fact that our neighbours in New Zealand had a nasty surprise on that again, sort of holding up at 7.2% in the third quarter, plus the fact that the rest of the world is clearly seeing inflation on things that we also will be subject to. So, obviously energy prices, food prices, and ongoing demand side pressure from the stimulus that was put in place in COVID means it does certainly seem that we will see some pretty ugly numbers as well in the September quarter. Now, that's not outside of the Reserve Bank's expectations, but it's certainly lots for us to be worried about on the prices front.
So kind of a number with a 7 potentially in front of it?
Potentially, although the market's a bit below that. So it's somewhere in the sixes, it seems, according to the average forecast.
Cherelle, have a good week. I hope that tomorrow night's not too late for you, but I dare say it will be.
Oh, it will be. There is no doubt about that, Sean.
And then you've got to back up for inflation figures.
That's right. It's going to be a fun week. We love it.
Enjoy it. Thank you for being on Fear and Greed.
Pleasure.
That was Cherelle Murphy, Chief Economist at EY. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.